mic check. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. There we go. Okay, while the candidates sit down, I want to go over a few ground rules. First of all, welcome. My name is Ron Cox, Executive Director of MATV, Malden's Media Center, and thank you all for coming out tonight. Now, to make this run smoothly, it's going to be very important, and I appreciate all of you coming out tonight to support your candidate. But we're going to have some rules, and those rules are very important so that the program that we have for tonight goes very smoothly. And that means that while I know you're going to be very supportive of your candidate, we can't show it tonight during the forum. The one time you can do it is when we introduce the candidates. That's okay to cheer and your candidates. And then at the end, when we thank them and we say good night, you can also clap then. But during the forum, I can't stress enough, we can't hear boos, we can't hear cheering. Really want to keep it as quiet as possible. Please help out with that. We don't want to delay the time for the candidates to answer their questions, okay? Are there any further questions? Okay. I also want to thank, we have translation going on tonight by the Asian Community Development Corporation, and let's have a hand for them, for the Asian community. We think it's very important that we get as many people involved in the municipal election process as possible, and we appreciate that. To me, that's important for everybody hearing all the voices that we can have out there. Okay, at this time, I would like to introduce the moderator who will be introducing the candidates tonight. Please welcome Moderator Guillermo Hamlin.
All right, so it is 6:20. Our official broadcast will be starting in 10 minutes, in which case I will formally introduce the rest of our format, the rest of our panelists, as well as introduce our candidates at that time. In the meantime, take these 10 minutes for yourself. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna do one last thing before we enjoy our break. Whoa. We're gonna enjoy, so my timekeeper, my second in command will be joining me, is Deanna Zhang, as well as her assistant over there. To go over a little bit of the time, you're gonna notice myself and Deanna Zhang throwing up some colors. So this yellow card means 30 seconds, meaning the candidates and or the panelists, or whoever I deem necessary, will have 30 seconds to stop talking. Red means simply you're out of time and you should stop. And then we're gonna move along. So thank you so much. The bell, of course. And also, if all else fails, we have the bell. And if all else truly fails, I'll just shut off your mic. So, again, we're going to be starting shortly. Take this time for yourself. And remember, as the executive director of MATV says, we are here for the candidates. We're here to make sure they receive their fullest time. Please do not interrupt, disrupt, or make any loud noise during the proceedings. However, we greatly appreciate each and every one of you being here. Thank you.
Okay, just to remind people, tonight's program is live. It's always shown on our access channels, the government access channel, which if you have Comcast is channel 22, and if you have Verizon is channel 26. And then, of course, we also live stream on our city stream, which is metv.org. And then, of course, you can get us on YouTube Live, Malden Access, MATV. So for tonight's, obviously, it's live. You're here. Those people who are going to be watching tonight, hopefully they're watching on one of those two formats. For the upcoming debate for the Council at Large, it's coming up on October 10th. And this will be here. And then on October 25, we're doing another mayoral forum, which is going to be more of a debate. So we look forward to that. Right now, the school committee is going to be having theirs on the 17th of October, and that's at St. Paul's First Parish. I'm sorry, First Parish. I get my churches mixed up. I should show up more often, I guess. So thank you all again for coming, and we're about to start, so hang in there. Oh, one more thing. Thank you.
You all are all doing amazing, by the way. It's top-notch silence. Love it. Oh, what's that I hear? I couldn't have asked for a better time. Please be mindful of all your cell phones. You can have it on silent, and feel free to take pictures while you do so, but please turn off your phone and or put it on silent. No vibration, no ringtones, none of your favorite songs. The only song we want to hear are the ones that come out of our candidate's mouth tonight. Thank you. All right. So for those who are coming in, please be quiet and start to make your way in. Stand by for broadcast. Stand by for broadcast. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the... All right. All right. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Malden Senior Center. My name is Guillermo Hamlin. I am the Government Affairs Coordinator at MATV, Malden's Media Center, and I have the privilege of moderating these panelists along with these two candidates for the mayoral seat in Malden. To everyone at home, to everyone here at the Senior Center, and throughout our businesses here in Malden, please keep in mind that we are not here to listen to the audiences at this time. However, we want to emphasize and showcase the candidates as they are, which means that before we begin, I will let you hoot, I will let you holler, but during the forum, I ask that you remain silent so that the candidates can fully use their time. And please keep this as a kind a forum as possible. This is a civic event. But keep in mind we're producing a television special, so that will take priority to any outburst, disruptions, or disagreements that will take place. As our Executive Director Ron said, all forums that are produced here in the Senior Center will be carried live on MATV's Government Access Channel, which is respectfully on the Comcast Channel 15 and Verizon 24, and the Education Channel on Verizon, that is 26, and our Comcast Channel 22. It will be live streamed on our city stream at matv.org, as well as our YouTube Live on our channel, Malden Access MATV. All forums will then be available afterwards on our cable channels, on our video on demand, on matv.org, as well as our YouTube channels. Now I'm going to introduce the panel I have to my right. Jim Mitchell is a publisher and editor at the Malden and Everett Advocate. Right next to him is Marsha Manong, a former MATV board member and active member of the Mass Senior Action Council. Right next to her is Henry Zhao, representing the Asian Community Development Corporation, as well as GMAC, the Greater Malden Asian American Community Coalition. He is a high school student, a freshman at Malden High, practices martial arts at Walloon Kung Fu and Tai Chi Academy, a member of the Key and Interact Club, as well as the YMCA Leadership Club. And finally, last but not least, we have Serge Parfeni, the owner of Bikini Cafe and a member of the Malden Chamber of Commerce. Now, to go over a little bit of the format, it's as follows. We flipped a coin, as you all saw. Candidate 1 will be Councilor Matheson. Candidate 2 will be Mayor Gary Christenson. We're going to go ahead and start with a panelist question. Then we're going to alternate back and forth. The panelists have a single minute to ask their question. The candidates each have 2 to answer and respond. And then we continue on until we are done with the first portion of our forum, amounting in a little break, and then we'll conclude with the final portion. And now I'd like to offer up to the candidates their opening statements, starting with Councilor Matheson with yours.
Well, thank you, Guillermo, and thank you, MATV, and thank you, panelists, and thank all of you for this opportunity. I also want to thank the people in my life that got me here. My mom is in the audience. She just had heart surgery last month. She's doing great. And my fiance, Ingrid, who herself is an amazing mother and a great partner I'm blessed to have. All of my friends, family, and campaign staff who took time out of their jobs and lives because they care about Malden and believe in this campaign, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. A little about me: I was born and raised in Malden. I was educated in our public schools. I was first in my family to go to college. I studied government. After graduating with honors, I got advanced degrees in law and business. This is the most relevant experience for the job of mayor, and it helped me serve my constituents for the last several years. As a young man, I decided to stay in Malden and buy a home here, and thank God I did. It gave me the time to spend with my dad before he passed away. He was a World War II vet, amazing man. He loved Malden. I'm a small business owner here. I hung out my shingle and practiced law in Malden Square. I've done that for 18 years, and I've helped a lot of people in doing so. In my 12 years ago, my neighbor Ruth Chapnick, she asked me to run for office because our road and sidewalk needed to be replaced. I lost that race, but we got a new road and we got a new sidewalk, and inspired by that, I kept running until I won. I went on to serve 8 years as Ward 3 councilor. I also served some time as councilor at large and city council president. Who knew that all these years later we'd still be talking about roads? But we are. We're talking about roads, we're talking about development, blue trash bags, business safety, education, and I look forward to that discussion. I come to you now because I love my hometown and I want to give back to the community. This is how I decided to do it. I want to use all my education, my experience, my skills, and everything I am to do as much good as possible. I want to put Malden first, every day, all day, and return the mayor's seat to the people. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson. Mayor Christenson, your turn.
Good evening, and thank you to MATV along with the panel for organizing tonight's forum. Most of all, thank you to the residents who are here and those watching from home. I'm here before you tonight, both honored to have served as your mayor and humbled to ask for the opportunity to continue to do so. Now, you might expect that I would use this opening statement to talk at length about our many accomplishments that we have achieved together, such as building a new city hall and reopening Pleasant Street, completing a new police station, which was funded with a $10 million grant from the state, upgrading our bond rating, which is now the highest in the city's history, continuing the downward trend in crime, which includes a nearly 40% drop in violent crime, increasing our reserves from a negative $670,000 in 2011 to a positive $11.2 million in 2019, eliminating nearly 50% of the lead lines that existed when we took office, challenging the state law on charter school assessments, which resulted in over $4 million in additional funding to our public schools. But as much as I am proud of these real, immeasurable achievements, I think it's important to highlight some of the intangibles, which to me are truly the essence of what it means to be mayor. It means being out in the community at events, no matter how big or how small, and connecting with as many residents as possible. It means being accessible and working to make sure that everyone is heard and feels welcomed. It means being available year-round, including summers. It means being positive and taking pride in what you do. It means being in the schools and getting to know our amazing students. And it means building consensus to achieve.
My apologies, Mayor, you've exceeded your time. I'm going to use the last bit of time here to remind the audience as well as the panelists. The procedure that we're going to have in terms of enforcing time goes as follows. I will raise a little yellow slip of paper. That means you have 30 seconds remaining. When I raise this little red piece of paper, it means by all means you can stop, and if you do not proceed to stop, our little friend, the bell, will do my business for me. Now, I would like to introduce our first panelist, which is Jim Mitchell over there with the first question, please. Yep, your mic is lit.
I'd like to get right to the blue bags. There seems to be...
My apologies, Jim. Candidate one, yourself, will start.
Right. Well, this will apply to both. Now there's talk about something that we're changing that's been going on for the past 10 years. And this affects the taxpayers, obviously. And it's about the blue bags, the trash collection. And I'd like to hear, lean it to the mic, he said. All right. So I'd like you to elaborate further on your ideas, your plans, what you think of the blue bags moving forward.
All right, so that question will go to Councilor Matheson, followed by Mayor Christenson.
Thank you, Jim, for the question. This is an important issue on a lot of people's minds. The blue bags have been an issue for 10 years. You may recall that the citizens were so interested in this issue that they circulated a petition, put it on the ballot. 70% said they wanted a different way of waste disposal. 8 years ago, Mayor Christenson ran for office, and he made a deal with us. He said, make me your mayor, and I will change this blue bag policy. Well, he broke that promise. And now, under the pressure of a mayor campaign, you're seeing a lot of promises and a lot of plans that just came up over the last few months, including one that he has just put forward. Now, I understand that, this is an inconvenience that not everyone experiences. People who live in condos and apartment buildings, they don't have to buy the blue bags. The mayor might not know how frustrating it is. But this is a program that absolutely needs to change. So the plan that I put forward, you would pay the fair market value for one barrel, one time. You would fill that barrel with your waste. Life in Malden should not be more inconvenient than it is in Medford, Everett, Melrose, or any of these other communities. I'd also like to offer residents a barrel at fair market value where they can mix their recycling and have the recycling taken away as well. The mayor has put forward a plan that's actually a tax increase. In that plan, you cannot opt out of the barrel. You have to take 2 barrels, and you have to pay $10 per month on your water and sewer bill. Not only should trash not be on a water and sewer account, I sympathize with homeowners, like my mother, who's on a fixed income, and there's lots of us. 2-family homes would have to pay $240 a year. A 3-family home, $360 a year. It shouldn't be a tax increase. We should improve the convenience, and we should offer these people a plan at long last. Government should be serving the people. That simply didn't happen.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Mayor Carey Christensen, same question.
The councilor used the word plan. Where is it? Anybody in this hall seen it? Because I haven't. We've been looking for it, but it's nowhere to be found. Ours is at cityofmalden.org/trash. It's about 15 pages of just how complicated this issue is. So if anybody wants an opportunity to see it, there's a lot of nuances involved with our solid waste contract. I'll never look at solid waste the same way again. But the one thing that you should know is that we have never given up. This would have been an easy one, 2012, 13, 14. You know, you just shrug your shoulders and move on to the next issue. But credit to our team, led by Ron Hogan, Bobby Knox, Chuck Rannigan, we never did. And now I think we have what is a viable plan. And we did think about the impacts that it would have on, you know, our senior citizens, and we have an exemption built in for that. So it's easy to say, like my competitor did on March 5th, right here at the Senior Center, that he would have something within 90 days and not to have it. So what we do in our administration is we actually follow through. It may take a while, but when we follow through, we follow through. So there's a plan up for the council's consideration, and they're going to have public hearings now, and we'll see what happens. But, you know, the one thing that the people should know here, we've never given up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gary Christenson. I'm going to proceed with the second panelist. In response to your question, you may choose to use up the following 2 minutes in your response to answer that, should you so choose. Let's take panelist number 2, please.
Thank you, gentlemen. I just want to acknowledge that I realize that both of you are lifetime members of Mass Senior Action Council, and we appreciate that. My first question is about affordable housing. The Malden Housing Needs Assessment, a report released this past June, outlined the great need for more affordable housing in Malden and highlighted the fact that just over half of all Malden households are low income, including many of the elderly residents. What is your specific plan to make sure that the recently renewed push for affordable housing includes an increase in the amount of housing that seniors can afford?
Thank you so much. Mayor Christenson, that goes to you, and then followed by Councilor Matheson.
Sure. Let me first state it was great to work with Mass Senior Action Council to have this housing needs assessment performed, which, you know, told us what we pretty much knew, that we need to do more around affordability. So we got right to work with the Malden Redevelopment Authority, and we presented 3 initiatives, to which I'm happy to say that Councilor Matheson supported. And the 3 are establishing an affordable housing trust fund, and we've committed any future mitigations fund, half of those would go into this affordable housing trust. We also have got the support to do an inclusionary zoning financial feasibility analysis to see if we can get to a percentage and a policy that makes sense for our city. The council did have that opportunity when he worked with his colleagues, but was a bystander on the issue. So we're going to see if we can try to help get this through once and for all. And then finally, what I think is most intriguing is a security deposit pilot program. We heard loud and clear that what happens when people are evicted quickly is they can barely afford first and last month's rent. The security deposit is what really puts them over the edge. And so we are, you know, we have a proposal to establish this program, which would front the security deposit, and then when the person moved, it would come back and would act as a revolving fund. So, you know, we also are working on some other issues as well that we hope to forward to the council. But again, we both attended the 33 Park Street rally. First thing I did the next day was have all the tenants in to see if we could reach a solution and get to work on trying to come up with some proposals.
Thank you, Mayor Christensen. Councilor Matheson, your time.
Thank you. Just back to the last question real quick. I would love to have my plan in cityofmalden.org. You run the city website. I'll have something for you to put up there. It's buried in committee right now, and you find that in the council. The check and balance of the council is completely gone. The mayor has his majority votes when he needs it, and if he doesn't agree with your proposal, it'll stay in committee. But to your question, MAPC did do this study. I did help commission this study. They recommend that we should be building another 3,852 apartments here in Malden. They also say that we have plenty of room for parking. Everything that's not green in this map, they say is buildable in Malden. These are the same guys that Mayor Christenson signed onto a housing construction pact in October to build thousands of more units. As far as affordable units are concerned, it's really nice to hear the promises of a candidate, but he had this city for 8 years to put his policies and his plans in place. We have seen a boom of market rate apartments that very few of us can afford. They have done a depression on our Chapter 70 funding, and they have not brought the revenue that we want. One apartment developer actually got a pretty juicy tax break of $2 million, so you get the traffic, you get the apartments, and they get rich. But when it comes to affordable housing, this is what I've been fighting for at Malden Hospital. While the mayor here has been fighting to have a dense development up there for the last 8 years, he promised that site to one of his developers. It's someone he has a relationship with. I have been fighting, after polling the constituency and the residents. They want to see some open space, they want to see some affordable units, and we're losing seniors all the time when they downsize and they have no place they can afford to stay here in Malden. I want to see some affordable units for seniors and veterans up there, and I want to see some open space. I think that needs to be a priority. Because of these market rate apartments, we're falling below the 10% 40B threshold for affordable housing, and that's all because of the apartment construction that's occurred over the last 8 years.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson. We're going to go with panelist 3, which is Henry Zhao. With your question, please.
Hello, I'm very glad to be here. I would just like to say that community gardens are something that would help the community and the environment, provide food, act as a fun place to hang out, and allow for children and youth to experience something different. What are your views about having more community gardens in Malden?
Thank you so much, Henry. That question is directed to Councilor Matheson, then followed by Mayor Gary Christenson.
Well, I got to tell you, Henry, I didn't see that question coming, but it's a good one. I know that we have some community gardens that have come online over the recent years. I'm going to give the mayor some credit here. I mean, he supports those projects as well. I, for one, had started the Arbor Day here in Malden. I helped rewrite our tree care ordinance in conformity with Arbor Day USA. We got Tree City USA certified. When I grew up in Malden, we had tree-lined streets. I was very, very proud. I'm still proud to be from Malden. But what I recognized taking over as a councilor is all these tree stumps in the tree pits. You saw these tilted sidewalks and these tree stumps. So what I said was, let's get a tree grinder, let's become a Tree City USA, and let's start planting these trees again. Community gardens are part of that too. When we did the cleanup over in Fellsmere Pond, we incorporated the school kids from the BB. And now when we do our annual Arbor Day, we dedicate that tree to someone we loved who has passed away here in Malden. And we have the students there and the neighbors, and we all put our hands in the soil together and we plant a tree. When you're talking about community gardens, you're talking about the same kind of community building. I think it's really an incredible thing. I think it's something we need more of. And that's another reason why we can't build on every available square inch of space. And you see that. We're becoming more and more concrete. That's not the future we want. It's not the future the residents want. And I have a great record of community engagement. I want to bring the community together, and I want to follow their directives for the type of future they want as a community. And that does include some community gardens as well as tree planting, streetscape beautification. That stuff is extremely important.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson. Mayor Gary Christenson.
Question was about community gardens, correct? Okay, because he just covered about 10 to 15 topics in his response. So let me stick with the question, which is, we want more community gardens. We've seen their success. It's been a pleasure working with Councilor Murphy on them. We, just are in the midst of opening 2 more, which will give us 4 total. And Councilor Murphy and I are already on to the next, round of community gardens. So, it's working together with the Malden Redevelopment Authority, having a great administrator like Julie Mangan, who's doing a great job. I was there on Saturday for the cleanup and the potluck dinner. But if I could just segue, because it looks like I'm going to have to do this all night, and respond to, some of the things that Councilor Matheson said. Again, I think the operative word tonight is going to be plan. He has served right alongside me for 8 years. He's had the opportunity to do the same thing that we've been trying to do. Where is his PAYT plan? If he can't file it with the clerk, put it on the web himself. Where is his affordable housing plan? We've submitted one. You can read it. It's all there. The Masonic Lodge, he voted to establish the Housing and Development Incentive Zone. That wasn't us. That came from the city council. And it actually wasn't a bad idea because it lowered the density at the development across the street. It restored the historic facade, and it, gave us $2 million worth of tax revenue. So again, ask for the details. It's not the what, it's the how.
Thank you so much, Mayor Gary Christenson. We're going to proceed with panelist 4, which is Serge Parfeni from the Malden Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening. I'm grateful to be here. The topics for these questions have been submitted by the members of the Malden Chamber of Commerce, so I apologize if I misread some of those words. What is your vision for the national grid site, and is there a timeline for those plans?
Thank you so much, Serge. We're going to proceed with Mayor Christenson and then with Councilor Matheson.
Sure. It's our hope to have something obviously better than what's there today. So originally it was supposed to be, a Field of Dreams, a baseball park. That did not happen because the Boston Red Sox did not think it fit within what they were trying to do. However, there was a subset of that group that is trying to bring open space, soccer, rugby, lacrosse, et cetera, along with retail, restaurant, and hotel. So coincidentally, we just met with the group yesterday to see if there's a way to move that forward. But regardless, it's our hope to try to do something there to make it better than what it is today. Because, thanks to our business development officer, Kevin Duffy, I think we're getting close, just outside these doors with having the downtown that everybody wanted back in 2011 when I first campaigned. I think we're just missing that one other thing, and that could be it across the street.
Thank you so much, Mayor Christensen. Councilor Matheson, your time.
Thank you very much. I need to go back a little bit here. He said I voted for the HDIP plan. Just so you folks at home know, that's a housing development incentive plan. We do not need an incentive to bring market rate developers to build apartments in Malden Square. They're clamoring to come into Malden Square. We passed the HDIP with the mayor because it was a way to accelerate future taxes from the buyer, the purchaser of the City Hall site, so we could take their future tax money and get $10 million of that today so we could afford to build our new City Hall. It was a magnificent plan, better than some of the other plans we heard before that one came along. However, the mayor's office drew the boundaries, and then they came to us and said, pass this boundary for ex-State Senator Jack Brennan's building at the Masonic Lodge. I voted against it. I thought it was a terrible idea for an apartment developer to not pay his full share of taxes. So again, they get the apartment building, you get the traffic, and they don't have to pay their full taxes. That was wrong all day long. And I could tell more about it. I hope we have a question that brings me back to that. But I want to tackle your question about National Grid. When you're mayor, when you're a career politician, you accumulate these political relationships. And those relationships either work for your community or they don't. This is an instance where that relationship did not work for the committee. After the land agreement had expired for that ballpark developer, he continued to deal with this single individual long after everyone knew this deal was dead. It was insolvent. It was never going to happen. As a result, 8 years, one of our scarce land resources has gone unused. I would love to see that become like a station landing where you have shops and benches and a place for us to go that can attract consumers and bring real revenue, not this phony apartment revenue, real revenue that'll put us on the map and make us proud. That's the kind of future our residents want to see. That's what should happen at that National Grid site. The Malden Station, one of the busiest T-stops, we should capitalize.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson. That was right on time. So we're going to proceed and return to panelist 1, Jim Mitchell, with the next question.
Thank you. My question is, should there be a moratorium on residential development? And if not, what are your plans in terms of commercial development, bringing back, I know you just mentioned the Field of Dreams or the National Grid site rather, but we're also seeing something that's been ongoing for a long time, which is the Rose Quarry site. I mean, that's gone into Saugus. It's more residential, although there is a little bit of commercial there, but there's also supposed to be a hotel being built on that site. I'd like to get your thoughts on a moratorium on a residential as well as plans on commercial
Thank you so much, Jim. This question will be directed at Matheson, followed by Mayor Christenson.
Yeah, so the Rose Quarry site unfortunately began as a proposal for condominiums, but then they switched that on us. When they were done with the construction, they said, we can't sell this many condos. We're going to have to convert it into apartments. So we ended up getting some mitigation money, $2,000 per apartment as they first time get rented. This is the same kind of ploy that I think we were seeing from the Malden Hospital site developer. After trying to propose 400-plus units and 500-plus cars for a little community that couldn't possibly support it, they said, oh, by the way, this is after years of giving them the stiff arm. By the way, 250 condos, give us that. It was a con, and it wasn't going to work. And now you've seen, because we're in this mayoral race, that they've pulled the plug on that development. We did do a 2-year moratorium on residential development, but only on condominiums outside the, not condos, but multi-unit structures, apartment buildings outside the business district. That lasted 2 years, and you're only allowed to do a moratorium if you have a study to perform. Now that that's over, the direction has to come from the top. And that's the truth. The mayor does a lot of wheeling and dealing that we don't see. I'm not saying it's all nefarious or anything like that, but he has a lot of conversations that happen privately. We need a direction of the city that takes us away from the apartment growth and brings us to business growth. Now, I know you're not asking the business question, but let me tell you, there are more tech industry dollars in this region than any region in the country other than Silicon Valley. If we can attract the right type of business for Malden Square, and we are poised with our location to do that, we would be able to benefit in the entire community with it. Every time a dollar gets earned and generated here, it spreads around the community 4 to 6 times. You know those businesses are going to need your printing services. They're going to need every type, the restaurants. You're going to see that all the businesses benefit, all the consumers benefit, and the taxpayers are going to benefit. If we can generate positive business revenue, we can give the taxpayers a break for once, particularly with these blue bags. That's one way we can start doing it, and the water and sewer bills.
Councilor Matheson, thank you very much. Mayor Christenson, your response.
First, I wish this energy and passion that the council has shown tonight was demonstrated through the past 8 years, because our city would probably be better for it. Where is his plans? Where are his plans to lower water and sewer rates? Where is his plans to do PAYT, affordable housing? Show the plans. So let me just say about the moratorium, because that was the original question. I do not favor moratoriums. I never have, because I trust the community to determine what makes the most sense for them. We've had a project at Middlesex and Charles that was proposed. The community did not like it. They voted it down. We had an expansion at Granada Highlands that the community rallied and voted it down. But there are some that they voted for. So I think we always leave the option open and make the determination. As far as commercial, again, I want to highlight the success of our business development officer, Kevin Duffy. You see the revitalization of the square. We also just opened 2 new office buildings, one at Medford in Canal, and we're in the midst of doing one at Charles and Middlesex. That'll be 110,000 square feet of office and lab space. This is on top of the complete renovation of the Bank of America building at 320,000 square feet. We're also a Mass Bio-ready community. We brought in 2 financial service companies, HFS and Cantella. We have Hoffs, 2 breweries, 2 drone companies that have moved in. The gaming niche, Bodeborg, 8D Room Escape. The restaurant scene, I always say taste the world in 5 square miles. And finally, we're working on a commercial incentive overlay zoning district that we're getting ready to send to the council. And if I could just end on the HDIP, he could have easily motioned to take the Masonic Lodge out of it. He did not. He voted for it as presented by his colleagues.
All right, thank you, Mayor Christenson. So this will be the last question before we take a break. However, we're going to have enough time for each candidate to respond. We're going to return to Marsha Manong with this question.
Thank you. This question is about building inclusive communities. Based on the population in Malden, it's considered a minority-majority city. Communities of color are aware that representation in decision-making positions of power within government and educational structures in Malden do not reflect the city's diversity. My question is, will racial equality, equity actually, be a priority of your administration? And what actions will you take to induce racial equity that mirrors the city's diversity?
Thank you so much, Marcia. This question will go to Councilor Matheson and end with Mayor Gary Christian.
Yeah, thank you. I think we did I begin the last question?
Yes, you did, but because this is the last question before we take a break, it falls on you.
Okay. Yeah, look, I think we both care very, very much about this. Our community is one of the most diverse that you'll find anywhere, and I'm proud of that. I can go anywhere and see people. I'm always comfortable in any environment. One thing that I would like to see is that we have a translation staff in the mayor's office. I know that Mayor Christenson has added a lot of staff when he took office. In fact, if you look at the baseline of Mayor Howard 8 years before, the Mayor Christenson 8 years, that staff cost is about $1.5 million more. And we've seen a lot of photography services and press writing and things of that nature. What we don't have is the ability for someone to come into City Hall and say, explain this building permit, or explain this rule, or explain what's going on here. For you to enjoy the full benefits of living here in Malden, you need someone that's able to speak your language, and that's something I want to bring. I've been hearing that from the community, and that's something I want to roll out. We see the same thing in the schools. So we have a lot of diverse students. It's well over 50%. We're talking about 2 out of 3 students, and they want to see that the teacher population reflect that diversity as well. Our diversity as a community has changed more rapidly than teacher careers. And what we need to do is encourage young people to get into the teaching field, because we're recruiting. I know the mayor's doing, I know the school committee's doing, I know the superintendent is doing. We're recruiting, and we're even taking it to social media. I think that's the new platform where you can reach a diverse body of potential employees. As far as elected officials, I would love to see the next generation of folks that live here and call Malden their home to start running for office, because you will see people of Asian descent and different racial makeups take on positions of authority within the city council, and maybe one day the mayor and the school committee. I think that would be fantastic.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson. Mayor Christensen, you will have the last response before we can go ahead and take a break. Thank you.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the staff in the mayor's office because he voted for it in 2011. But what I do want to spend a lot of time on is diversity in hiring. That has always been a priority of ours and will remain so if I'm reelected. And I have some statistics because, you know, one of the things that I've found, we never get to stop and look at how things are going. And I was pleased to see that on the city side as of today, we've gone from 5% back in 2011 to 12% today, people of color working for us. In boards and commissions, we were at 5% and we're now at 15% today. So we need to do more, but that's a step in the right direction. And when we get over to the schools, we had 0 principals of color, we now have 3. We had 3 administrators of color, we now have 9. And the teaching force that just came in this summer, 23% of the new hires are people of color. So Karen Colon-Hayes, our community outreach manager, Malden Core, Mass Senior Action Council, our interfaith leaders, it's working. In working with Councilor Neil Anderson, I think, you know, our collaboration together is starting to, I believe, bear fruit. And that's a great thing for our community.
Thank you so much, Mayor Christensen. And I'd like to thank you all. We will proceed with a 2-minute break. Thank you so much, and we will return shortly with the next round of questions from our panelists. Thank you. right. So I can't believe it's been a minute. Can't believe it's been a minute already. Please proceed back to your seats as soon as you can. We'll start as soon as we can. All right, may candidates please return back to the stage, please. All right, candidates back to the stage, please. All right. If your candidate is out there, please return the candidate to the stage. If your candidate is out there, please return your candidate to the stage. All right, candidates to the stage, everyone. If you see your candidate, urge them to return to the stage.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, could you please take your seats? Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Could everyone please take their seats so we can begin part 2? Thank you. And we certainly need the candidates as well. Thank you all very much. By the way, I just want to reiterate what Guillermo. Hello? I just want to hello. Just want to remind people that you've been a very good audience. Thank you so much. And now, as we end this break, we would like to get both candidates in the seats. John, anybody know where Gary is? Oh, there he is. Yeah, come and sit down. Thank you. Thank you very much for being a great audience. And now back to Guillermo Hamlin.
All right, stand by for broadcast. And we're back. Thank you so much for taking that 2-minute break. It was more like 8 minutes, but I greatly appreciate the camaraderie and community that we have here today. So, a reminder of our format. What happens is that a panelist asks a question. It goes out to candidate 1, candidate 2, candidate 1, candidate 2. And then panelists ask a question. It gets directed to a candidate. The candidates 1 and 2 get to respond. And then in kind, it goes over with the last person who asked the question. Except for the last portion, it returns to the first question format. And we're going to end with a 5-minute statement from each of the candidates as we close this portion of the event. However, don't fret, we still have lots of questions ahead. We're going to return to panelist 3, which is Henry Zhao, with GMAC, with the next question. Henry, you ready?
Hello. Wait. In the past, my parents moved to Malden because it was an affordable place and a great place to raise their family. So now housing prices are going up rapidly. Are there any things that will be done to help people in Malden and families to stay in Malden?
Thank you so much, Henry. That question is actually directed to Mayor Gary Christenson, then to Councilor Matheson.
Yes, there is. In 2016, we initiated a housing needs assessment because we wanted to know exactly what the crux of the problem is. And as you can imagine, it's around affordability. So once we realized what we were up against, we got to work right away with the Malden Redevelopment Authority to put together a plan for the City Council, which again, I'm grateful that Councilor Matheson supported the initiatives that we forwarded to them, which is to establish an affordable housing trust fund, which funds would be utilized to perhaps partner up on establishing more affordable units. Another thing that we have committed on our end is any new mitigation funds that come in from any of the buildings across our city. Half of those funds would go into this trust fund, again, to help with affordable housing. We also believe the time has come to have an inclusionary zoning policy. We don't know the percentage or how the policy should look, but we have the support to do a financial feasibility study to determine what fits best for our city. And then finally, what I'm really intrigued about is the security deposit pilot program. Again, thanks to Alex Pratt and Evans Petrani in the Malden Redevelopment Authority, we are willing to front what is, we've heard from people, is a tough thing for them to do. First and last month, the security deposit really is tough for them to come up with. So we're also working on a few other things that we hope will help moving forward.
Thank you so much, Mayor Christenson. Councilor Matheson, your time.
Thank you, and it's a valid question. We hear a lot of this, and again, this is oriented around the affordable housing subject. Before I get into it, I just want to go back to the last panelist's question about diversity in City Hall. One of the things that occurred to me, because I didn't get a rebuttal opportunity there, was that the Malden public housing is well over 50% minority. I think we're talking about 60%. The city of Malden is about 30% Asian, we'll find out in the next census, but in the Malden public housing, it's much, much greater than that. The mayor appoints the housing commission, and we have zero representation of minority groups in that commission. And that is a commission that deals with those housing issues for that affected, affordable population of 2,000 people. It kind of dovetails into this question itself. So how are we going to help people? Well, we missed the boat the last 8 years in affordability. We know that. We had lots of opportunity to negotiate with different developers for different reasons, particularly if you're going to give Jack Brennan a $2 million tax break. I'd say, Jack, you know, what are you doing over here? What are you doing for the folks? What are you doing for Malden? You know, we've got sewers that need relining. We've got the stormwater drains. We've got streets. We've got all kinds of things that need to be fixed. But very often what we do, particularly through the MRA and the home loans, we can offer subsidized loans, jumbo loans to developers in exchange for their promise to have 10% or more affordable housing. That way, if someone is income qualified or moderate income, they have an opportunity maybe to rent an apartment at a rate they can afford, or even buy a home. Imagine being able to buy your own home affordably. That's something we could do up at Malden Hospital. I'm going to keep coming back to Malden Hospital because it's such a big issue to our community, and because so much development has occurred, this is an opportunity for us to take the remaining development that will occur and do it right. Because I don't know how many more bites at the apple we're going to get. In the future, we're going to have to be looking out for a whole lot of other things other than apartment development. So the development we have left, we've got to take care of the people that are affected. I want people to stay in Malden.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Right on time. Greatly appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and return to Serge Parfeni of the Malden Chamber of Commerce with the next question.
The addition of many housing units in the city, staying on the same topic, the problem carries is the same with congestion, right? Both the diminished number of parking spaces and the cost might deter customers from shopping in Malden Center. What are the plans to address these problems voiced by our local businesses?
Thank you so much. This question will be directed to Councilor Matheson, followed by Mary Garrett Christenson.
So this was a question that spoke to development, and it also spoke to parking. So one thing that we're trying to do here is tackle the problem of commuters that are coming in and taking our parking spots and then taking the T into Boston. They don't live in Malden, but they're taking up the spots. I know the mayor last year rolled out parking meters for the first time in Malden. We rolled out a bunch of those. I think that some of the business community is happy about that because there's turnover of parking spaces. Other people, maybe not so, because we want to build up our businesses. Maybe offering some free parking helps do that. What I want to do is go around to the community and I want to audit every single street, street by street. We have about 550 some odd streets. It's going to take a whole term, but we're going to find out everything that street needs. Every one of you is going to benefit. We're going to identify all the parking spaces we can create, and then we're going to find the problem ones, and we're going to get rid of those. And while we're doing it, we're going to identify the worst roads. We're going to audit what trees we have and which sidewalks need to be fixed and which crosswalks need to be painted. We need to take a holistic approach to all of these things, and we could do it street by street. And I think you'll find that when we're done, we're going to have better parking solutions for this city. And when we tackle that problem of resident parking, I think you're going to find that a lot of people that are registering their cars outside of the community are going to start registering their cars in Malden. They do that now because our insurance is so high, and maybe because we have one of the most, we have a lot of traffic accidents, particularly in the most dangerous intersection in Malden, Highland Avenue, Fellsway East. I got $1 million fix for that project over there. It was on the state's list of most dangerous intersections. We have fatalities there. If we can tackle some of those traffic problems, bring down insurance rates, register these cars, and identify the parking spaces, it's going to benefit all of us, including the businesses.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson. Mayor Christenson, this is your time.
He's not going to do that because he would have done it by now. He was the chair of the Traffic Mitigation Committee, which met 2 times in 2.5 years. That was his opportunity to rise and shine, and he didn't do it. So what makes you think he's going to do it as the CEO of our city? I understand the traffic. We all do. But, you know, we're home to 3 separate complete school systems, which is a great thing, but we have more to do. So in working with Councilor Winslow, we are in the midst of hiring a transportation planner, which is going to help with multimodal ways of getting around and looking at all of our intersections to see if we can do a better job of syncing up the lights. The traffic is not coming from Malden Hospital. None of it's coming from Malden Hospital because nothing's going on. He's had 8 years. The last 2 as the chair of the Hospital Development Committee, or whatever it's called. I don't even know what it's called because they don't meet enough. 8 times, 2 years. 2 times, 2019, 0 results. Well, except they were cited for violating the open meeting law. So, again, he's acting like he hasn't been here for the past 8 years. Maybe he hasn't. But I've always considered this to be a partnership. You know, we tried to come up with a plan. It didn't make it. I wanted to defer to the council. He's had 2 years, actually 8 years to come up with a plan. He hasn't. Finally, on diversity, he has been responsible for 4 department head hirings. No diversity.
All right, thank you, Mayor Gary Christenson. We're gonna return to the first panelist, which is Jim Mitchell, with the next question. Jim.
Thank you very much. Malden has a river. It actually has a harbor master as well. But aside from that, what are your plans specifically for the Malden River, given what's down there and what's been going on down there? And also, is there an opportunity to relocate the DPW building, Department of Public Works building?
Thank you, Jim. That question is directed to Mayor Gary Christenson, followed by Councilor Matheson.
Very timely question. The 2017 Open Space and Recreational Plan identified increased access to the Malden River as a community priority. So we would support amending to establish a Malden Riverfront overlay, which would come up with measures to connect us to the river, whether that's through landscaping, benches, signage, and lighting. And how we would do that is how we do everything, which is partnering up, you know, with the Friends of the Malden River or the Mystic River Watershed. Just a couple of hours ago, it was announced that we received the Leventhal Prize, and we're going to begin designing and finding a way to make sure that our community has access to the Malden River. As far as public works go, I'm resigned to the fact that I think we're going to have to find a way to coexist down there. We have not come up with a place, as you could probably understand, that would fit or that would be something that a council would want in his or her neighborhood. So we think by relocating it on its current site in a way that could coexist with the river, we think makes a lot of sense.
Thank you so much, Mayor Gary Christenson. Councilor Matheson, this was your time.
All right, a little rebuttal is due here. Traffic Mitigation Committee. Let me just tell you something, folks. One of the claims that you'll hear from this gentleman is, he doesn't work hard enough, I'm the one that works. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But none of these things are true. I am a full-time attorney who goes to court. I also have a family. These things are not something he does. He's fond of saying he's the full-time CEO of this corporation, which means he's our manager. Give me that full-time responsibility, and you'll see these things get moved through, and they'll get moved through more efficiently. And he's right. I did pioneer something called the Traffic Mitigation Committee. We couldn't get quorum, because when you're not one of the Gary's counselors, you're not going to put any emphasis behind this thing. A lot of this stuff comes from the direction at the top. If they don't believe the mayor's going to support it, it gets buried, just like my trash program. He's having hearings on his, mine's buried in Ordinance Committee. So you'll find the same thing. Blame me for Malden Hospital all you want, but here's an email from the developers that say, Mayor Christenson, thank you again for your time on Friday to brief Tony and myself on Hallmark Health site. We did visit Old Grove Village, a 550 apartment unit complex. We were very impressed with the quality and design. We came away with a better understanding of what you and the council are looking to achieve for the redevelopment of this site. He was encouraging the redevelopment to be an apartment complex, not what the residents wanted, even when 80% said they didn't want it. He still lobbied. He's the best lobbyist for apartment developers I ever seen. But let me go very quickly into the Malden River. We're blessed to have riverfront property. This is a valuable asset that's been neglected for too long, 8 years and more. I would love to bring together all the stakeholders, the community, the municipalities, the state, to pursue funding to clean the water, adorn the banks with benches and a boat launch, and a beautiful natural landscape people will want to visit. I would like to create an entrance to the DPW yard, and I'd like to conduct a feasibility study for maybe a public water shuttle to Boston Harbor. There is so much we could do there.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson. And again, thank you for sticking to time. We're going to now return to Marsha Manong as our second panelist, and this question will be directed to Matheson, followed by Christenson.
Thank you. This question is about pedestrian safety. Despite the Complete Streets Policy and Task Force, we still face challenges around pedestrian safety and have seen several pedestrians killed in the last several years. As mayor, would you support the implementation of diagonal crosswalks and increasing the number of intersections that are no turn on red? If not, how do you intend to address this matter?
Thank you so much, Marsha. Councilor Matheson, this is your time.
That's a great question, and I'll say that a lot of the funding for our streets comes through the MRA, and the mayor helps develop that budget, and then it comes through sometimes with approval of the council. I do believe that we do need to improve pedestrian safety. That's why in the council, we passed a Drive 25. So we are now citywide a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. You might not know that because the mayor's office hasn't put out the signs yet. It's been a year, and I'm waiting for that. I would love to see some more enforcement there. It also took 2 years to get street sweeping signs. So in other words, when people who were driving and parking didn't know the rules, we issued an extra $1 million of tickets on those unaware drivers because the council was insisting on the signs to tell them, give them fair warning of the rules, and the mayor wasn't rolling them out. Now, I actually agree very much on the diagonal crosswalk thing. I think the most heavily traveled intersections, particularly where you find the elderly buildings, those entire blocks ought to signal that this is a safe zone. We need to slow down those cars. We could do that with better signal timing as well. This is something I did on the Traffic Mitigation Committee, the committee that only met a few times. But one thing that we did recommend was that the national DOT, the US DOT, there is intelligent signal timing that measures in real time traffic patterns. And what it does is it helps during rush time open up the channel for cars going in one direction and slow down the channel where there's not a lot of traffic volume. What we found is this reduces wait time, driver frustration, CO2 emissions, and it actually improves road safety. They said that it improves wait times by up to 20%, improves road safety by up to 10%. Clearly, we need to do more. Outside 557, we removed that raised crosswalk. Someone got hit and killed. I don't think that ever should have happened. I don't blame the mayor, but he did make the decision to remove the raised crosswalk. I think those particular crosswalks need to be paid particular attention to.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Gary Christenson, your time.
Again, more about the what and not the how. He just gave us a lecture about something that sounds somewhat interesting, but what has he done to make it happen here in Malden? Chair of the Traffic Mitigation Committee, met 2 times, 2.5 years. And I'll tell you what, in my 20 years of public service, I've never heard someone say that the reason they couldn't meet is because they couldn't get their colleagues to attend. Leadership, that's what leaders do. You work together to have quorums and to have meetings and to move forward. On your question, I think we're going to do what we've always been doing, is working with the community. One of the things that we did in 2012 was establish an advisory committee on walkability, which I'm happy to say has roughly 9 to 12 members now. And they've recommended improvements, which we have implemented on crosswalks, making intersections safer. They've even chipped in on helping us, redo our snow removal ordinance and installing signage. The Complete Streets Policy, I see Maria Louise here and others that we're now finishing our 3rd project. And that's a real credit to all of them for coming together on that. And then Councilor Winslow, again, working together, made a great suggestion that we start using community development block grants to start upgrading some of our intersections throughout the city. So, for example, Highland Endeavor, we're just in the midst of redoing that crosswalk. Mount Vernon and Salem, if you drive by, we're getting ready to take off the covering, so we'll have countdowns there. But, let me just say, for the past 8 years, again, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. He's acting like he hasn't been around, but they control zoning. So if there's something that they think should be done to change our city, we're all ears. What has he filed in the past 8 years to address development?
Thank you, Mayor Gary Christenson. We're going to return to our 3rd panelist, which is Henry Zhao. with the next question, and then this question will be directed at the mayor, followed by Councilor Matheson.
Hello. What I would like to say is that my friends and I would go outside of Malden and have fun, hang out, and have a good time. But inside of Malden, there's some businesses that attract people my age. But what I would like to see is what would you do to bring more businesses and entertainment to people my age in Malden?
Thank you, Henry. This question is directed to the mayor, followed by the councilor.
Easy one, expand Bodeborg, which I'm happy to say, they just announced that they are expanding. So you're going to start to see some construction this fall. But again, working with Kevin Duffy, our business development officer, I think we're this close to becoming known as a gaming district here in the downtown. So in addition to Bodeborg, we have 8D Room Escape on Exchange Street. We have Wanyu Esports and Gaming that's opening to the right of Bodeborg. And then just up the street, one of my favorites is going to be the Bit Bar, which is the old style video game. So for future office hours, that's where I'll be. I'll be near the Gallagher machine. So, you know, I think this is starting to come together, the restaurants, the gaming, and then if we can ever figure out the National Grid site, which, you know, the plan that we're looking at is to have retail, restaurant, hotel, youth sports, and open space. I think that would convince you and maybe some new friends to spend all your time here in Malden.
Thank you, Mayor Gary Christenson. Matheson, your time.
Thank you. So the National Grid site has contaminated soil. I don't think you're going to be seeing a hotel there. But you have heard my vision for the National Grid site. It's kitty corner to the busiest T-stop in the Orange Line. It could be our Assembly Row. It could offer you those things that young people want to go to. When I was a kid, we had the Granada Theater downtown for 99 cents. We could watch a movie. I know people could even quote cheaper prices than that. But we loved coming down. There were arcades. Ryan Family Amusement had arcades. The Granada, they had arcades. I do think you're going to be seeing more of this. What we have to do is be a more business-friendly community. I think instead of having a mayor's office that so diligently promotes a mayor, what we need is to promote a city. We are poised to become the thriving business hub of Metro North. Our location is ideal. What do real estate agents say? Location, 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 the three most important things. Well, we have that. We have 93 on one side and Route 1 on the other. And in between, we have Route 60, Route 28, Route 16, you name it, we've got it. And you're going to see businesses come in. You just need the right environment and the right promotion. That will happen. As far as zoning, zoning is there for that. And I know he likes to say zoning is done by the city council, don't blame me. Well, I don't know why he's talking about a Residence A zone and telling apartment developers to move in if he doesn't think he can control zoning. And as far as this, the Traffic Mitigation Committee, I'm glad it inspired him. He created one of his own traffic committees, and they're having recommendations now about signal timing, something I find very, very important. And also on that committee, we talked about that deadly intersection. We got DC out of the table with the 75 contribution on the solution. $1 million, we're going to solve a site that has been a source of property damage and injuries and fatalities and rising insurance rates.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson. We're on our last two questions before our closing statements from the candidates. Each of them will have 5 minutes each to make the final pitch. So we're gonna make our way to Serge from Malden Chamber of Commerce.
Now, this next question is something that I'm confronted with every single day, and as I continue to learn, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. What can be done to address the needs of the businesses for qualified labor?
Thank you so much, Serge. This question will go to Councilor Matheson, then Mary Gary Christenson.
So one thing we did back in several years ago is we had a committee in the council that would keep developers hiring local and hiring females and minorities and making sure that the entire Malden community benefited from the hiring of those developers. I think we could do the same thing by being a partner with the chamber and the businesses. I know Gary knows the importance of economic development. He's got an economic development officer in his team. I think we could do more, though. I think what you're saying is, let's find the talent pool that's out there and help bring them into our businesses. When we start becoming a more business-friendly community and more businesses are coming in, I think you're going to see that this rising tide raises all ships. And we can certainly do it. I know we're doing social media and the internet the way we've never done in the past. We could certainly reach out to all those channels and bring in that type of qualified labor. Your question was labor? Yes. Right. And as far as bringing in business that are going to increase employment, I think we could do what we did with Hoff's if we're going to attract a big business. This was one of the biggest businesses over there in Medford, and they came to Malden because they needed the space. And to sweeten the deal for them, we staged out an incentive tax plan where they paid 20% of their full tax bill in year one, followed by 40%, 60%, 80%, and then full taxes. They ended up saving a couple of years of taxes, but it was staged out so that as their revenue started coming in, they were more able to afford that tax bill. The other thing I did in the council is I passed a $5,000 exemption on personal property tax. We had over 500 accounts that were unpaid where the treasurer was trying to chase people around, collect personal property tax from the small business owners. I'm one of those small business owners. When you have like a computer and some office furniture and small money under $10,000, $5,000, we don't need to be chasing those guys around collecting those tax receipts. We need to make it easier for people to start a small business. When you start a small business, you create a job in America, your own. We need to encourage that.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Mayor Christenson, your response.
First, I think we're already doing that, and it should be pointed out, Councilor Matheson, we really should acknowledge the efforts of Kevin Duffy, our Business Development Officer, as well as Councilor Peg Crow, for working so hard on that Hoff's deal. That was a big one, and it really was a moment that I'll remember for a long time to have them here. We should also talk about, my vision of qualified labor is just create the environment, create the vibe, clean streets, responsive departments, checking in with them, trying to come up with a balance across the community, to make people want to be here. And I think it's happening. I forget our unemployment rate, but it's very, very low. I believe it's lower than the statewide average. So again, that's a tribute to Mr. Duffy and, all the good work that the Chamber's doing, as well as others.
All right, thank you, Gary Christenson. So in the interest of time, I'm going to actually make sure that we end our final question with Marsha Manong so we can fill out the hour. Jim Mitchell, please go ahead and ask your question. This will be directed at Mayor Christenson, then by Councilor Matheson.
Okay, thank you. This was difficult, but I've decided to go with this one. Encore, the mitigation money. Now, you guys, we both think we're talking about vision for the city, obviously, if elected or if re-elected. When you see this kind of money that's coming in, that it's making, there's a cause and effect. So given what you'll be receiving coming into the tax base, what do you plan on doing with the money?
Thank you so much, Jim Mitchell. Mayor Christenson, your answer.
Well, first, I want to acknowledge the efforts of Ron Hogan, Kevin Duffy, just everybody who was able to come up with the first surrounding community agreement. It's roughly $19 million over 15 years. It's not $20 million in a lump sum, which I think my opponent has suggested during the campaign. It will go into the general fund, and it will be appropriated through a transparent budget process. Right off the top, we have pledged to dedicate $100,000 of the million to go toward nonprofits. So I don't want to sit here and promise this or promise that, because, I think we need to see at the time what state assessments are, what health insurance costs are, what pension funding schedules look like, and work collaboratively with the City Council to determine what makes the most sense. Now, the councilor, on the other hand, I believe, has cited during his time that the casino money could be used for the acquisition of the hospital site. I believe he said it could be used for Lead lines could be used for roads, you know, but you can't until we know where we are at the time. We're still using money out of our reserves to balance the budget, you know, and although it looks like, thanks to Senator Lewis and others, that school funding will start to rebound, you know, we just can't be sure. So, you know, I think we have to take, you know, a cautionary approach and work collaboratively to determine the best use of those funds.
Thank you so much, Mayor Christenson. Councilor Matheson, your response.
That is a classic politician response to a question. And I don't blame you for giving it, but in my time in the council, when you get an answer that doesn't actually commit where the money is going, that should scare the hell out of you. I don't know where the last $1 million the casino gave us went. Do you? It's very, very important that we make sure that this money benefits all of us. And if we're going to fix our roads, that's something that we're all going to appreciate when our repair bills at the auto mechanic are lower and we're not bouncing around. I talked to a guy the other day, he drives a bus, he's retired, he drives a bus now, and he says, I drive a blind man. And when I come into Malden, he knows it. He goes, how? How does the blind man know when I enter Malden? I go, I don't know how. He goes, because he does this. So we need to fix these roads, and this is an opportunity to do it. And I never suggested the money is a lump sum, but lump sum or not, we can always accelerate. We can always bond against it. That's what we did with the meals tax. He said a few other things I wanted to look at. He said we couldn't use the money for Malden Hospital or some other things. I just want you to know, I read this contract. I don't know if you read it, sir, but I read this contract. Every clause, every single clause ends with, shall be used and applied at Malden's sole discretion and determination toward any impact, infrastructure, improvement, and/or mitigation measures Malden deems necessary and suitable. Let me tell you something. That's about as broad as legal language gets. We can use this money to benefit all of us. We don't need to play games about some transparent process working collaboratively with the city council. I don't know how many of you have gone to the budget hearings where the public gets an opportunity to speak, but no one comes. We don't know, the members of the public don't always know, and we have very little ability to change a budget that's presented by the mayor. In our time on the city council, the last 8 years, while he's been mayor and I've been councilor, only one time did we ever reject a mayor's budget. That's when I was city council president, and we were better off for it. I have more to add, but I'm out of time.
Thank you so much, Councilor Matheson, and again, immaculate timekeeping. We're going to go to our second panelist, Marsha Manong, with the last sets of questions before the closing statements from our candidates. Marsha, this is your time. Thank you.
Thank you. For many years, this question is about the roads. The quality of the roads in Malden have been deteriorating with large potholes and bumpy streets. Beyond the Complete Streets initiative, what will you do to address the way poor road conditions negatively affect the safety of our differently abled residents? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marsha. This question is directed to Councilor Matheson, followed by the mayor.
Well, I wish I had saved my story about the blind man until this one. You know, I heard a couple times my opponent say, where's his plan, where's his plan? When it came to the casino money, I would say, where's your plan? And I would say the same thing for the roads. I mean, what we have found over the last 8 years is we spend twice as much money on the same amount of roadway as we ever did in the past, or than our other surrounding communities do. We are way over budget and way over schedule on these infrastructure projects that this mayor had rolled out as early as 2012. But I want to address your part about the differently abled. You know, we are taking care of ADA compliance, and I'm going to give you credit for that one because you do care about that as well. You know, I'm fair and I give credit where it's due. But what you'll find is these sidewalks all around our community, there are a lot of sidewalks that are tilted up because the tree roots are growing under them, and then in the cracks you get all the weeds growing out and it just looks like hell. We need to make sure that every one of these sidewalks is fixed because people like Dee, you need to get around, and I don't want to see you struggling with that. And I see a lot of folks on walkers, and they're saying the same thing. Well, just folks that aren't good ambulating. You know what I mean? And we need to take away those trip hazards, clean up those sidewalks, and make the transition into the street a less bumpy, choppy one that's full of potholes. All of that deserves our first attention, our priority up front. And you're going to be able to do that if we can effectively use the casino mitigation money. Something else that's coming, whether you like these marijuana shops or not, they're coming. And the mayor appoints this committee, and he's doing a lot of these host community agreements. Those entitle us to collect up to 3% of their gross revenues. That could result in a tremendous amount of money that could be used to help the schools and help the roads and the walkability. I want to make sure it's going that way because I'm scared that we're not getting the right kind of negotiation here, and I want to make sure it happens the right way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mayor Gary Christenson with your response.
Sure. Well, on the initial $1 million casino payment, he doesn't know where it went. He should. He's on the city council. I could tell you where it went. It went to save jobs. If we didn't have that fund to use when we received it, there would have been layoffs. So that's where the $1 million went, Councilor. And then the other thing that I could tell he might be a little foggy on, he asked this year not to be placed on any major committees such as ordinance and finance, and I can see the impact that it's having on the council, because if he had, he would know you can't earmark. The Department of Revenue doesn't allow you to put aside funds that are coming into the city's coffers. You have to let it first roll into the general fund and then appropriate it. So, you know, I just want to remind him, because he's been on the council 8 years, that's the process that we've been working under, and as far as I know, that's the process we're going to work moving forward. And let me just say, I agree with you. We need more help on infrastructure. No one's working harder on it than City Engineer Yam Lip, Ron Hogan, Chuck Ranigan, Bob Knox. We've paved over 30 miles of roads, which equates to roughly 250 streets in the past 8 years. It's roughly, 28 to 30 streets. We also have submitted a plan. We didn't rest and stop. We submitted a plan to the council that he voted for, which I'm grateful, that we're in the process right now of starting a new 5-year plan that will address, 27 to 30 streets. So, I mean, it's just this millions and millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure repairs out there. The only thing I can guarantee you is that we will not stop until we're able to do as much as we can to meet the community's expectations.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank both candidates in the interest of time for keeping themselves and their questions under time. This is very rare to me to not hit my beloved bell. And so I would like to introduce our closing remarks sections. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to wrap up their pitch to the voters. I would like to thank the panelists. I would like to thank Jim. I would like to thank Marcia Manong. I would like to thank Henry Zhao, as well as Serge from the Malden Chamber of Commerce. Please reserve your applause for them at the end of the forum, for we shall proceed with the closing remarks. Per our format, we're going to begin with Mayor Gary Christenson, then we're going to close with Councilor Matheson. Gary, this is your time to close. You have 5 minutes to make a closing remark.
Once again, I want to thank MATV and the members of the panel for their contribution to this forum. I truly appreciate the time and effort that goes into putting something like this together, and the integrity of the panel who, despite concerns expressed by my opponent, showed themselves to be fair and objective, as I knew they would. So far in this campaign, we've heard a lot of promises about how if you elect my opponent, he will replace all of the water mains, sidewalks, get rid of lead pipes, including private lines, repave all the roads, lower your water rates, get rid of your trash, all, of course, at no cost to you. Well, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. He tells us what he is going to do, but he doesn't tell us how. Of particular note is that there is a striking lack of interest from his campaign about the importance of our public schools, our public safety, our public works, each of which plays such a vital role in making this community who we are. And the reason you haven't heard my opponent talk about these things is clear. Those are the very things he will have to cut funding for in order to fulfill his promises. Folks, it is a balancing act. You can't achieve those promises without eliminating something else. What will it be? Teachers? Firefighters? Police? Let me be clear. Our schools, our police and fire, and our public works will continue to be priorities for me. What you've also heard from my opponent's campaign is negativity, misinformation, and disrespect for residents who don't agree. In so many ways, it is similar to what we see playing out at a national level. I believe we are better than that. I know we are better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's clear from the dialogue this evening and over the past 6 months that the voters have a choice between two candidates who couldn't be more different. My administration has been about setting a positive tone for the city. We value each and every member of our community and treat them with the respect they deserve. We have been about accessibility and transparency, putting ourselves out there to be held accountable for better or for worse. We have been about balance, recognizing that there are so many important missions we serve as a city who are all worthy of our limited resources. But most importantly, we have been about establishing a sense of community that defines who we are as a city. I am extremely proud of what we've accomplished, accomplishments that are both real and measurable. But I'm even more proud of how we've done it. We've done it the right way, by working together. Being your mayor has been my honor, and I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Gary Christenson. Councilor Matheson, you reserve your 5 minutes to close however you wish.
Well, thank you very much. It is an honor and a privilege to be here. This is a great opportunity for our city too, isn't it? A mayor race brings accountability. Because of it, elected officials like us have to go to you and say, how can we do a better job? How can Malden be a better place to live? For now, the power and the issues shift back to the people. It is your job to hold us accountable. My opponent has had 8 years to run the city his way with his policies. And over the past few months, you've heard a lot of new policies and promises, but this time, you don't have to rely on words. You can look at the record. I'm going to go off script a little bit. I had some stuff about blue bags and other stuff that you've probably already heard in this debate. But he mentioned something to me about how he doesn't offer any explanation of how he's going to pay for it. Well, let me tell you something. There are a lot of avenues our city could pursue. One of those is zero-interest loans from the MWRA. Okay, that's our resource authority for water. Instead of going there for the interest loan, zero-interest loan, he went to you residents. He cranked up your water and sewer bill through his 3-member appointed commission that meets in his office to the point that we have $9 million over and above your actual consumption sitting in an account. You lost the time value of your money when the MWRA was offering a zero-interest loans for nothing. We could have availed ourselves of those loans for our water and sewer infrastructure and our lead pipes. I'm not going to cut teachers. I mean, that's what a demagogue would tell you. But listen, before this race happened, you didn't hear a peep from him about open space, Malden River, or affordable housing. You're hearing it now because the power is shifted to the voters. In fact, he opposed open space and promised Malden Hospital to a developer even after 80% of residents opposed it. Last October, he signed a pact with MAPC to bring in more apartments. These things are only changing now because of this race. Whether you like the idea of an addiction recovery center or not in Malden, he didn't bother to tell you about it until last week because he thought it would get him more votes. That's a fact. That's a conversation and information that we should all have. So let's not focus on campaign talk. Let's focus on the record. The best predictor of future performance is past experience. The last 8 years is a record of blue trash bags, dense apartment development, more traffic, millions of fines, new fines on our residents, soaring water bills, yet still the most lead pipes in the state and 200 fire hydrants that need to be repaired. It's a record of broken roads and broken promises. When business is booming for our neighbors at Station Landing and Assembly Row, we're missing out on the benefits of the best economy of our lives. Don't be fooled again. November 5th will be here soon, and the power will shift back from the people, and we may not get a chance like this again. I'm running for Malden because Malden needs change now. I knew that if I didn't stand up, he would eventually prevail at Malden Hospital and the community would be ruined by another large development and more traffic. I gave up my council seat, Ward 3, where I was born and raised, and my chance at a pension, and my law office to run this race. I have spent $50,000 of my own money over the years educating voters. This hasn't been easy on me. I didn't get donations from developers or come up through the political system like Gary did. He's worked in politics for a couple decades, made a couple $1 million doing it. I made my own way through against great odds and never made any money doing it. This is a chance to use all of my education, my experience, and everything I'm made of to do a lot of good for a lot of people. That's why I'm here. It's time to bring the mayor's seat back to the people and start a new day in Malden. A chance to give residents the future they want for their own community and not simply be passengers along for the ride. Instead of an administration designed to glorify the mayor with pictures and press stories, we will hire a full translation staff to help our diverse population enjoy the full benefits of life in Malden. We'll educate people and empower them with facts and give them a voice. That's how I secured the $1 million to fix our most deadly intersection, Highland Ave and Fellsway East, where the accidents were cranking up our insurance rates. We'll take advantage of this great economy while there's still time. Instead of promoting a mayor, we'll promote a city that's perfectly situated to become the next thriving business hub of Metro North and give the taxpayers a break for once. So I ask you, with everything you've heard, consider that this is your city. This is your future. You're going to have to live with the policies of the next 4 or more years. You may not get this chance again. So I know we can do better. Let your voice be heard. Encourage your neighbors to get out and vote. Talk to your neighbors, and if you do that, we'll all win. I greatly appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Mayor. Before we adjourn.
How about some applause?
Nope, not quite yet. Thank you. But I would like to thank you for your responses, Councilor. I want to thank you, Mayor, for your responses. Thank you so much for allowing us, MATV, the opportunity to inform the public in order to choose this mayoral seat and not a side. Please exercise your right to vote on November 5th, and please do come out to our annual meeting and celebration at Anthony's of Malden tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. because here at MATV, we build community through media. It has been my distinct honor and privilege to moderate this panel. It has been my distinct honor and privilege to moderate these candidates. You are now free to applaud for your candidate as we are done.